Thanks for joining me at a God vlog. I want to talk just a moment about President Obama's expression of his personal conviction that gays ought to be allowed to marry, that the LGBT community ought to have open to them what the heterosexual community has open to them with respect to honoring their union through marriage. There's been a lot of flack from the Christian community about that, and there are a number of us who are pastors in the Christian community who actually support that decision. Peter is commanded by God to call no one profane or unclean. We are told in First John that we're not supposed to hate anyone. Jesus tells us to judge nobody, and also to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And he also says, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. Taking all of those together, and the fact that it's beyond a reasonable doubt that homosexuality was created by God and all of creation is good. You can go to Genesis and look that up. Everything in creation that God made is good and declared so by God, regardless of what leaders in certain religions might say. All of creation is good, and that includes LGBT and Q community, as well as the heterosexual community. And this idea that somehow we have to continue to apply rules that were written 2,000-3,000 years ago with respect to homosexuality, but not apply rules that might otherwise apply to heterosexuals is disingenuous. We disregard rules. Jesus said there should be no divorce, and anyone who divorces and remarries commits adultery. And in the Bible, adultery is a capital offense, yet you don't hear anyone arguing that we need to follow that rule. In Numbers 5, around the mid-20s and early 30s, in the verses, it says that any male who suspects a wife of having an affair needs to go to the priest, and the priest gives her poison to cause an abortion. We don't hear anyone arguing that we should do that. We don't hear anyone arguing these days you can't have a tattoo, that men aren't supposed to shave, that we can't eat pork or shellfish. There are a myriad of commandments in the Bible that we no longer follow, yet we hear a number of Christian leaders thumping the Bible on this one issue about homosexuality. And mostly they turn to the writings in Leviticus, which declare themselves that they are intended to apply in Israel, in the land of Israel. They are clearly tied to Israel land, and they're for Israelites. We are not in Israel. We are not Israelites. That text, even if it were to apply today, and we don't apply most of the other rules and laws and commandments that surround that particular text, but even if it were to apply, it doesn't apply outside of the promise and outside of Israel. And you can go through the text, and I've done other videos on this where I explain how each of the texts can be read to not be talking about homosexual relationships, about loving companionship, being united and respected and honored. God is love. Everywhere there is love, that is God. And that includes in homosexual relationships as well as in heterosexual relationship. Now, there's a whole bunch of people that will disagree with me, and I'm going to get hate mail, and people are going to be upset. And you can choose to be unloving about this. You can choose to pursue a hateful path toward the homosexual community, towards LGBT. You can make that choice, but you don't have to. You can choose a loving path, and you can claim that your path is loving, but you just don't love the sin. And I say to that is, and I don't know how to say this respectfully, it's nonsense. You cannot claim that homosexuals are okay, but how God made them is sinful. They are clearly 100% made by God, loved by God, cared about by God. And if we as Christians are supposed to be love incarnate, God incarnate in the world, we're supposed to love and respect all of creation as God made it, and that includes LGBT. I back the president 100% on this particular issue, and I am so glad and so pleased that he had the courage to make that statement, because it needs to be said. And the church has supported slavery in the past. The church has supported Jim Crow in the past. The church has supported sexism in the past. The church has supported all a manner of discriminatory conduct with respect to race and indigenous peoples, but the church has been wrong in the past. And there have been a number in the church who have opposed the oppression of others, who have opposed slavery, who have opposed sexism, who are now opposing heterosexism. And that's because love calls us, Jesus calls us to love and honor and respect everyone, and to understand that God is love. And wherever there is love, there is God. And that includes LGBT relationships that are loving and companionship oriented and long term, and they should be entitled to be married. And if your church doesn't want to do it, don't do it at your church. If you don't want a gay marriage, don't have a gay marriage. But there's no reason that the law should not allow gays, lesbians, transgender, questioning, bisexual people to be married. There's biblical support for that. God is love. Love your neighbor. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Call no one profane or unclean. Do not hate. Thank you for joining me. My name is Reverend Scott Elliott. I'm the pastor at Riviera United Church of Christ